Nigeria's health infrastructure might not be something to write home about or boast of, but an array of medical professionals across the country counts for something and always ignites interest. The brilliance of some Nigerians in the medical spectrum steadily catches the attention of the global community, and a typical scenario played out in October 2022 when a Nigerian consultant family physician was inaugurated as the 73rd president of the World Medical Association (WMA), making him the first Nigerian and first West African to be elected president of the global body since inception in 1947. Shakespeare once said, "Some are born great, others have greatness thrust upon them, while others achieve greatness." For Dr. Osahon Enabulele, his unique distinction of rising through all the various stages of medical professional leadership is one that cannot be ignored. This is in From their fruits you shall know them, says the Holy Book. And of course, from the fruits of excellence, this individual's name has translated to a global brand. Some people refer him to as a strategic thinker, others the lion killer, some others a public affairs analyst, and of course, to people like us, a great physician of repute. He is the immediate past president of the World Medical Association. Thank you for joining me on Inspirators.
Thank you very much for having me on your program.
Thank you. His name is Dr. Osahon Enabulele. And of course, before the program started, I asked him what it meant. I'll just ask you again. Osahon Enabulele. Very interesting way to it. What does it mean?
Well, Osahon means God hears. I come from Benin, and it means that any time I call on God, God hears. And I think over time, it's become a truism, because whenever I call on God, God hears. And Enabulele is, it signifies somebody who's a rallying point, more like some people gather around, solves problems, and of course seek solutions to every challenge, before himself and his people.
Indeed, the two names kind of merge into your personality, I must say. Dr. Osahon was born 29th January 1971 to the family of Elder Jonathan and Rachel Enabulele in Edo State. He attended Victory Primary School in Benin City and thereafter went to the Federal Government College, Wukari, Taraba State, where he attained distinctive academic excellence. Young Osahon then proceeded to the University of Benin, where he graduated with a Bachelor of Medicine and Surgery degree. For Dr. Osahon, life growing up was indeed memorable, with untainted sense of responsibility through the path of greatness.
I was born into a family that already was liberalized. I was born into a liberalized family, a humble family, a family that believed in, democratic expressions, gave opportunity for you to grow in a way that could, of course, get you to realize your aspirations and destiny. And so early on, I had parents who nurtured me in those paths, who provided a very disciplined platform for me to recognize ideals, recognize virtues and values, and aspire towards achieving or attaining or subscribing or adhering to those values and virtues. So it was very, important that we got socialized along those lines. And I think preeminently that helped me in my ascension through the ranks, from early on, development, tutoring, nurturing. And of course, my mom was also very instrumental in that. She's a disciplinarian and who always ensured that you stayed focused on your pathway, stayed focused on your aspiration. And of course, I had to also develop myself somehow, involve myself, and ensure that I looked ahead of me, in terms of setting my agenda, setting my focus, my mission and vision, and ensuring that I stayed focused on it. So at early times, I had to, of course, do away with a lot of distractions to make sure that my eye remain on the ball, and that explained my, ascension through the ranks. That every time I find myself anywhere, I commit myself to values, to which of course includes excellence.
Was there a conscious effort at always putting your eye on the ball? So there were no, extracurricular activities.
Well, there were extracurricular, but not to the extent to derail you from attaining, whatever you set your sights on. I used to have what I call daily re-examinations, where, like Aristotle, Aristotle once admonished us that an unexamined life is not worth living. So I had to examine myself every day to ask myself, what have I done yesterday? Where am I today? And where do I want to be tomorrow? What are the mistakes that I made yesterday? Can I correct them today? Moving into the future. So I always did that. At a point in time, I felt I was also overstressing myself. So I made it a monthly review process, appraiser, to ensure that you were staying focused on your dreams, on your objectives in life. And I think that also helps a lot, because if you live in life and you do not understand where you are in life, you may not just be able to move in the right direction. And so, like Malcolm X told us, you find yourself floating in the air, not knowing where you're moving in space. So it's always important for us to understand where we are, where we were yesterday, and of course be able to set new targets and realign them in line with our aspirations. So I always did that as a young person, and both at my primary school level, where I had a lot of leadership positions, secondary, where of course I was already very highly formed because of the involvement, in terms of where I came from at primary level. I belonged to the Boy Scout, for instance, and Boy Scout of those days was a very disciplined platform that helped to, of course, prepare you for the future. I mean, going to camps that were very safe in those days, unlike what you have now, where you have a lot of insecurity. But we used to go to camps. Our parents allowed us to go to those camps to get to associate with others, to, of course, nurture yourself, prepare yourself for the future, because the motto of the Boy Scout is be prepared. So it means that you have to be prepared for every future challenge you may want to that may come across your way. So I think I had these opportunities of having a very liberalized platform that also was a very humble setting. And that is why I have no hubris, I'm not hubristic at all, and I like to say that I do not believe in arrogance or arrogance of power. No matter where you find yourself, you remain humble, remain with your associations, never discriminate, no biases. And so that has helped me to also connect with the people that I work with. I'll be able to drive a very formidable progressive leadership.
His leadership capacities in various unions aptly capture one who is driven by passion. For close to 3 decades, Dr. Osahon committed his expertise both home and abroad to the advancement of the medical profession. Known for blazing the trail, his name became synonymous with that of a serial jinx breaker, making him history as the first resident doctor in Nigeria to be elected into a leadership role as the Vice President of the Nigerian Medical Association, NMA. Other feats include the youngest ever president of the NMA, first Nigerian to be elected president of the Commonwealth Medical Association since the body was inaugurated in 1962. And in 2022, the first Nigerian and West African to be elected as the 73rd president of the World Medical Association, among other remarkable strides, lead to one that many call him the Lion Killer.
Well, I usually do not like to talk about it because I like people to always find out for themselves, but again, I think I'm constrained now to say this. Sometimes when I find myself at the international level and people hear that I'm Lion Killer, because of the perceptions they have in some parts of Europe, and they look at you again, Lion Killer. Oh, you may want to, kill all the lions in a lot of animal conservationists, but I think gradually they got to also do their researches, do their studies, and eventually from engagements here and then, and also visitations to Nigeria, because there's a time I brought them to Nigeria to also interact with the people that we associate with. And they suddenly found the basis for that name. So I was one who was committed to humanity, committed to the progressive development of society. I know that takes a lot of courage. I remember in my secondary school days, I had a case where because of the fact that the rights of some of our students were, breached, there was very strong attempt to breach the rights of the students. The secondary school level where I schooled in Federal Government College, Okari. I had to stand up for them. At the point in time, I was summoned before a panel, and of course, when I wrote my response, they didn't know what to do with me again, Then, of course, in the university level, because we were fighting for people's rights, I hate to have people oppressed. I hate to have people, downgraded or denigrated. I remember meeting my then vice chancellor. He was very happy to see me to have moved this level. But I asked myself, if I had been asked then, because I was struggling for the people's rights, then where would you have found me today? So all those, qualities and attributes perhaps convinced the people who gathered sometime in the year 2000 to popularly acclaim that here is a guy that we want to call Lion Killer.
Dr. Osahon's trademark is evident. Accountability, focus, and dedication to duty are like the gospel in achieving several laudable leadership strides. The trajectory of his personality embodies servitude, and so during his tenure as the president of the Nigerian Medical Association, Dr. Osahon served with vibrancy. He recalls the sterling achievements recorded when elected in 2012.
I was president of the NMA between 2012 and 2014. That was a very historic moment for the NMA based on what we did as a leadership. And with absolute respect to those who had come before me, I thought that I needed to bring to bear, what I consider as a profound leadership traits that, I seem to have, I seem to be imbued with to transform the organization into a more viable, visible, progressive, and productive organization. I did a lot, not only to, of course, ensure that there were concrete expressions given to the fundamental objectives of the association, especially when it comes to the issue of defending the rights and welfare of the members of the organization. But I also ensured that we made fundamental contributions to the health and well-being of the people of Nigeria. For instance, I gave the case of the National Health Act. The Nigerian Medical Association during my time was very preeminently involved in pushing for the realization of the then National Health Bill of 2012 that became, of course, the National Health Act of 2014. I remember I was like a lone voice, always advocating, preaching, and seeing beyond some tenuous tendencies that were being expressed by some other groups to say that, look, for the fact that this is going to be for the progress and benefit of ordinary Nigerians, as guaranteed by Section 3 and Section 1 of the National Health Act, that we should stand for it. That for the first time we're having an act or a legal prescription saying that Nigerians are entitled to basic conditions and basic health packages and benefits. For the first time, we are having provisions that seek to protect the rights of patients, that seek to protect even the rights of the providers. These were very profound provisions. And I thought this was something that we needed to engage. And when I organized the National Health Summit, which was the first summit to be organized by the Nigerian Medical Association in its over 50 years existence, attended by over 2,000 physicians and other health professionals, I made it a point of duty to see that as a point of refocusing the health system, refocusing the Nigerian Medical Association, and also building support for the pursuit of the National Health Act. And you saw that we invaded Abuja during the public hearing held in 2013, where we, of course, canvassed preeminently for the passage of the National Health Act. And today is part of what we now have in Nigeria. Of course, there were other issues I did. For instance, for the first time, we saw an organization that could stand for its members. When the Lagos State government at that time sacked over 774 doctors from its public service, I thought this was some level of madness. Because here in Africa, we're talking about the huge deficit in medical manpower. As I speak to you now, Africa has about 25% of the global disease burden. And so, but unfortunately has less than 3% of the global health workforce. So it has a very huge crisis in terms of human resource for health. And in the face of that, and in the face of the very short gross deficit in in medical manpower, even in Nigeria at that time. You still had a government that was, thought they had a luxury of sacking people. I thought that was, from the health perspective, very wrong. From even the governance perspective, very wrong. For the first time, you saw an NMA stand for his members. And so we ensured that all those 774 physicians were recalled unconditionally. And I think that was a historic moment for us, that the voice of an organization could actually be heard loud and clear.
Interesting story. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
All right, the program is still Inspirators, and we'll go on a short break. When we come back, it will continue in just a moment. This is still Inspirators on NTA. My name is Ngozi Jude, and my guest is Dr. Osahon Enabulele, the immediate past president of the World Medical Association. Congratulations after completing your assignment at the World Medical Association. How strategic was it for Nigeria as a whole? I believe it was the first time a Nigerian and West African country was represented since 1947.
Yeah, thank you very much. It was very strategic for us to be involved at that level because, like you stated, this was the very first time that Nigeria and West Africa was featuring at the highest level of the Global Federation of Physicians that has existed since 1947. It's interesting that it took us over 75 years to get to this point. And I think it has helped to change the narrative about Nigerian states, about Africa, and of course about what we can also contribute to the global movement in terms of the advancement of the medical profession, the health system, and of course humanity in general. So I think it was a very strategic opportunity, which I think we tried to maximize, to ensure that people have a different, progressive, positive idea about what we are in our country, in spite of what they hear in news media, in spite of what they know about, they've known about us. And that was why at every point in time, I always, in my international engagements, always put Nigeria first. The Nigerian flag was always in front of me. Of course, the beads I always wear from the Benin Kingdom to show that I'm also from Benin, because I'm proud of my place, So I think it was a very important opportunity, and that was why, again, that I had to put myself, totally into the whole assignment to make sure that the, maximum impact was created and that is still currently reverberating around the whole world.
Now, maximum impact within 1 year, was that ever possible? Is it ever possible to implement policies, maybe the policies you had in mind before going into that office?
Well, I've always seen, offices as an opportunity, no matter the duration, to, of course, ensure that you make impact for every second you spend in that office. So I tell people, even during my valedictory, I made a point that it's not how long or how short, but to what use you put the office. And I always look at such platforms as opportunity to make impact every second of your existence in that office. And I think they all agree that in 1 year, we've made tremendous impact on several fronts. And a lot of people thought I had spent 4, 5, 6 years in office, but I think it's the frenetic pace at which we undertook the activities of the global organization. So at every time they saw me moving at cross-continental levels, addressing issues of health system strengthening, issues of violence against our professionals, issues of their well-being, and of course, issues of restructuring the healthcare system and ensuring that this whole concept of universal health coverage is advanced at a more frenetic pace. To make sure that it's not all about discussions, it's not all about sitting around a round table, but getting the prescriptions on those roundtables to the field where they matter most.
His passion for academic excellence resonates at the University of Benin, his alma mater, where he instituted an academic prize for the best graduating medical and dental student. What were your convictions then, and do you think the output has been impressive enough for you?
Yes, certainly. I tell you something. When I was president of the University of Benin Medical Students Association, the University of Benin, I paid a visit to the then governor of those states, Chief John Odigie Woyama Oyegu, who is a man I respect so highly. And when I met with him, already I knew who he was. I knew he was a very articulate, profound man, even up to now. And I said I was going to see him. That was at the height of June 12 crisis. And all appointments, most appointments, for that day in Government House were cancelled. But I made my way through, and he also was very happy that he saw me that day. And so when I met with Chief Odige Oyegun, of course, if you know Chief Oyegun, he's very cerebral, he's very sagacious and all of that. And he first of all addressed us. And everybody was saying, oh, wow, wow. But of course, I took up courage. I said, yes, I've met the governor now today. I will let him know that there are also students in the University of Benin. And when I finished speaking with Chief John Odige Oyegun, what did he say? He said, oh, that he thought we had lost it with university education in Nigeria. But that haven't heard from me today, haven't seen me today, his hope is now brightened. And that if I had not come with my stethoscope, he would have thought I was either a law student or a political science student and all of that. I was very impressed. Again, I thought that even beyond my medical education, I will have to empower those who are left behind in terms of supporting them and making them know that in spite of the deprivations, in spite of the constraints, in spite of the challenges in the Nigerian states, that they can still drive excellence, they can still pursue excellence. So the award scheme was to also give them some level of incentive to pursue excellence and together make our society better, make medical professions stronger, make the health system better for all of us, and of course be able to provide for more quality services to the people of Nigeria. So it's an incentive towards to pursue excellence.
As an individual, you have committed to serving your society, you have committed to build your society. But it's unfortunate that what you're seeing right now is the Japa syndrome. Now, in the face of your capacity and serving in various capacities, how do you think this syndrome, I'm not sure we're going to make a headway in the nearest future if this thing continues?
Well, the truth of the matter is that this is one issue I've been speaking about for, close to about 20 years now. And I'm asking the question whether those you speak to actually listen to what you are saying, whether they are committed to what you are saying, because it's something that, borders on basic issues of governance. I like to see that this is preeminently as a result of the, contradictions that you find in your home country, in this case Nigeria, for instance, where the basic issues of living have not been addressed over the centuries, over the years, over the decades. So you talk about the issue of the workplace conditions, for instance. You talk about the issue of even the objective socio-economic conditions of the people. Today we talk about insecurity. How do you allow Nigerians, for instance, to be exposed to that level of insecurity? And of course, sometimes being kidnapped, being held hostage by criminals, paying you sums of ransom. The moment you leave those environments, you are afraid. You want to think of the next best place to stay and promote your livelihood and promote your existence. The countries they are attracted to are putting on ground very good mechanism to promote livelihood, to promote good living, to promote, career progression and all of that. So we have no choice but to be like them. If we want to be at their level, then we must promote those strategies, ensure that the workplace conditions are decent enough, they are enabling enough, they are enough to promote job satisfaction. You ensure that they have the right tools to work in their country. You ensure that they are appreciated. Because again, what we find is that, professionals are not as appreciated in our country. And you look at the merit award system now, for instance, people who really do not deserve to be given awards, with due respect, are called up for awards. And yet the professionals who are contributing to national development are left abandoned and stranded. You want a situation whereby you are rewarded, you are appreciated. The reward is not necessarily in terms of monetary rewards. That somebody recognizes your contribution to national development is very important.
With more than 100 awards and recognitions for his service to humanity and medical practice, Dr. Osahon is never in doubt of God's faithfulness and the support of his family.
I'm also a family physician. I practice family medicine, and that means looking at individuals within the context of the family, and of course, irrespective of where they come from or the disease they bring before you or the age bracket and all of that. So I'm a total physician, and being total means that I also have to have a great attraction to what we do within the family setting. And so as part of my preoccupations at leadership level, I try to maintain, good contact with my family, because again, the family is the reason why some of us are even doing what we're doing in terms of the support base, providing the support base, the inspiration, the hope, and all of that. So when you lose that level of support, then you may not be able to look elsewhere, because that is very important. So, and I give priority to that as much as I can, even though yes, sometimes it's not possible to be at two places at the same time. But the whole beauty of the new technologies that we have is that irrespective of where you are in the world, you can always maintain contact. You have video calls, you have WhatsApp, you have all sorts of opportunities to maintain. So there's no excuse anymore. But there is no alternative to physical contact, because your children want to see you and always be happy that you are around and all of